Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another video. We are back joined by Gort, something a little bit different again today. If you'd have remembered a couple of months ago, me and Gort sat down and spoke about Minnesota FC in the MLS. We spoke about the MLS and football over in the States. I'm sure you've seen Gort on the channel on a number of occasions. He's a massive Everton fan over in the States. Wakes up at 4 or 5 in the morning sometimes to watch Everton put in some awful performances. So he is generally a proper Evertonian, a diehard blue who, you know, commits a lot to watch Everton Football Club. But he also supports Minnesota FC, who are his local MLS team. And we done a video, like I said, a month or so ago where we sat down and we spoke about Minnesota and we spoke about what was going on the previous season in the MLS. It is still the off season, I believe, in between, you know, the previous season and the next one. Of course, Minnesota FC does have a connection with Everton Football Club. Adrian Heath, Inchy, Everton legend, manages Minnesota over in the States. So that's, of course, a really interesting fact. And we thought we'd sit here and do another video because the last one was quite, you know, went quite well. It was received quite well. I think people enjoyed sort of sitting down and talking about something a little bit different to Everton. Certainly football in, you know, over in the States, of course. So we thought we'd do another one before we get into it, mate. How are you? How's things? How's life at the moment?
You know, I'm good. I'm dealing with the winter over here and the snow and just, trying to get by and
Yeah. It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult times at the
yeah.
moment. It's has it been is it been cold over in the States?
It is currently negative 16 degrees Celsius right now where I am.
That's colder than here. I didn't know it was that
Yeah,
cold.
and all the stuff going down. I think like down in Texas, who down south, they really don't get snow. They've had power outages for like a long time, and down there, I mean, they don't really know how to drive in snow because it really doesn't happen that much. But up here, it's like,
Yeah,
I mean, it's
it's just the
one of the
norm.
things. Yeah, norm. Yep.
Yeah, no, definitely. We haven't. I mean, we've had a bit of snow. There's a bit of snow in Liverpool a couple of days ago, but nothing serious, and definitely not minus
hmm
16 degrees. I mean, it was minus, I think, 3 the other day, and I had to wrap up warm, and I was complaining about it being dead cold. I didn't think it got to minus 16. So yeah, very cold then, having to put up with that. But as long as you're
Yeah.
all good in spirits and
Yeah.
healthy, that's all that matters. So
Yeah.
Minnesota then, mate, what's the latest? Obviously, we've spoken a lot on Twitter and social media about the MLS and the potential of a lockout recently, which was
hmm
because they couldn't come to an agreement in regards to the next season. So just in sort of summary, what's been happening, what's the latest, well, I suppose the lockout is something that people are probably looking at and listening at and thinking, what's that, what's one of those, we've never heard of that in English football before. What was the sort of, what was the deal with that?
Basically, it was they had previously, before last season, they had to basically agree another one because they sign usually every few years. And then when the pandemic hit, because of the loss of the
Yeah,
loss of revenue,
yeah.
they had to go back to the bargaining table and agree to a new one for the end of the season, and uh, then they had to do another one because I don't think it was that good as far as like they were taking like the players would take pay cuts and
Okay.
they wouldn't get as much bonuses. So kind of the the new one, the kind of the main points of it would be the it would be extended by 2 years because I think it was originally supposed to go through um like 2025, which
Okay.
would be on the verge of the World Cup
Yeah.
hosted, in the U.S., Canada, Mexico, and it was, I think the players wanted to use kind of they wanted to have it right before or after the World Cup so they can kind of earn use that as leverage
Yeah.
and try to get even more money. So instead of that, the in exchange for extending it for the additional 2 years, the players would keep 100% of their salaries in 2021. Um, the players would also receive other givebacks. Um, then there's free agency requirements would change in 2026 and 2027. And instead of needing to be at least 24 years old with a minimum of 5 years of MLS service to qualify as a free agent, you could qualify at 24 years old and 4 years.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, uh, the caps on what free agents would be able to be paid when switching teams would increase in 2026 and 20 kind of every single year
Yeah.
kind of the what you can pay free agents goes up, and then there's the whole salary budget would increase by 7.5% between 2025 and 2026 and 10% between 2026 and 2027, which is bigger changes than in the previous years of the deal, but smaller changes than those typically seen when moving from one collective bargaining agreement to another.
Yeah.
Um,
So it is practically just an agreement that was put in place because of like the loss of finances through the pandemic, and to try and sort of make sure that everything's covered and everybody's covered. And obviously there was a lot of disagreement, and there was a lot of, like you mentioned, there was an initial agreement, and then they had to sort of create another one because it wasn't quite what was accepted. And this agreement was massively important, wasn't it? Because this could have jeopardized the start of the next MLS season. And we spoke massively, like we said, about the lockout and the fact that if an agreement isn't taken, and if that sort of stuff isn't sorted out, then they wouldn't be able to start a new MLS season. Certainly not in the way as to which we know and love. So it got quite close, didn't it? The lockout sort of discussion.
It did. It got like almost to, I think, almost to that day, and then uh they extended it by 1 week, and then they extended it basically from the original deadline. They extended it 8 days, and then uh it was I think supposed to be all on a Thursday. They went to the next Thursday, and then they did it to Friday, and it was like either Friday or it might have been Friday or Saturday that they the kind of a panel of players agreed, and then it went to a vote with all the MLS players, and then this all comes from the Athletic, which I just read, which are they're pretty,
Yeah.
and uh, they say they weren't wouldn't shocked if if everything wasn't agreed to.
So it's so like you mentioned there about deadlines, and there was constant pushing back of deadlines and constant changes. Look, it was clear that it was in the interest of everybody, players included, that there was another MLS season coming up, and that they could train and they could have a pre-season and they could work on, obviously clubs can work on bringing players in, and we're going to talk about transfers in a moment. So I suppose that was the reasoning for the delays. That was the reasoning for the pushing it back of the deadline, is because they were desperate for this to sort of get over the line and be agreed, so that a season could start again. Were you ever worried then at any point that it was looking like there was an agreement, that there wouldn't be an agreement, or did you think this would all go through and smooth over and everything would be sorted?
I mean, I was definitely optimistic about this because kind of, I think the collective bargaining agreement, I think began in like 2002 or something. So it's been and then every few years they vote on it. And there's been times where they've had to agree a new one, and they have gone through in like an entire preseason,
Okay.
and they're still going through. And I think there was one, I forgot which season it was, but they didn't the full player pool didn't agree to it till like 2 days before the first match of the season.
Okay, so that got really tight then.
Yeah, it was. I think it was back in like 2008 or something. I don't know,
Oh,
but
okay.
yeah. But
Oh,
I was always optimistic about getting a deal done, and uh basically it was like if we did end up going to a lockout, it would have they the players would not have been paid their salaries, but the club would still be paying their medical insurance. So at least if like that happened, they could at least still get, health care and stuff.
yeah, yeah. So it was massive, wasn't it? Effectively, because like you said, it had the league and its sort of, in its hands really. Like you mentioned, there's been previous seasons where it's taken up until a couple of days, even into pre-season to be agreed. And this one, of course, was obviously going to be different than any other season because of the pandemic and finances and players' wages. And there's a lot of players on quite a high wage in the MLS. So great that it got signed and everything's sort of
Mhm.
sorted. And obviously a big part of pre-season and a big part of certainly Minnesota improving their team going into it. Finished fourth, I believe, in the MLS conference last season, and obviously are looking to improve on that in the upcoming season. Transfers is a massive part of football, and I know some people are probably watching this thinking we've never heard of a CBA agreement or a lockout in English football, and it is very different, and Gort has just spoken about the differences between how it works over in America and how it's working here. But transfers is the same everywhere. Football, no matter what country you're in, players are moving around and teams are improving their squad. So what's the latest on transfers then, mate? Minnesota wise, I suppose we can talk about first, and then generally for the rest of the MLS, because I know there's been a couple of superstars, you could say, who have joined
Yeah.
recently.
First, I forgot to bring this out last.
That's brilliant, that.
$60. So it's a great prank.
That's brilliant.
Cam will agree on that when I pranked him last
I
one.
fell for it. I thought
But
it was you. I thought you just weren't talking to me, and then you removed it, and my head I was like, what?
and then speaking of something that they might not you know, people in England might not understand, but feel like, oh, you got to Americanize, the sport somehow is the MLS Super Draft, the
Yeah.
college draft, and so those drafted, besides the generation Adidas, who basically I think they're either like they haven't completed college yet and they just want to go straight to professional.
Okay.
They're basically they're invited to go to preseason uh, for the club that they draft, and they get a chance to earn a contract offer. And then if I know in the past there's been a few where if the club doesn't offer the player a contract, the club initially owns your MLS rights for 2 years. So Minnesota. So initially we only had the 25th overall pick and the 38th overall pick
Okay.
in the super draft, and so we traded 50,000 GAM plus 25,000 GAM for this next season to New York City FC for getting the chance to pick the 17th overall pick, and we drafted a winger from Wake Forest, Justin McMaster. He would have been a top 10 pick if he didn't tear his ACL in 2019.
Oh,
He looked healthy, but he was rusty in 2020. and I think they're high. I think they're thinking that he's highly because we lack attackers right now,
Yeah.
but we're loaded on defense. So then we ended up going straight in after, and we traded 50,000 GAM plus the 25th overall pick to Toronto to pick the 18th overall, and we drafted central defender from UC Davis, Nabi Kibanguchi.
It's a mouthful, that one, isn't it?
Uh, yeah, he played for the USL League Two side San Francisco Glens,
Okay.
who is managed by US MNT, MLS, and YouTube legend Jimmy Conrad.
We know Jimmy.
Yeah, who basically says he's really good. He knows he's good at really one-on-one defending. He can play the sixth role, but he's naturally a center back.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then we acquired the 38th overall pick in a trade that we did last season that we sent Mason Toy to Montreal, and we drafted left back from Georgetown, Sean O'Hearn. His coach has told Heath he's tough as nails, uncompromising, hard-nosed, and always up for a fight. So hopefully, that turns.
And does he want to join Everton?
I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how he does. And then we acquired Finnish left back Jukka Ratila. I probably got that wrong, in a trade with Montreal in exchange for the rights of one of our one of our draft picks last year that we didn't end up, which I think we were kind of just adding depth pieces.
Yeah.
And then another rumor was first reported by Goal.com but confirmed by The Athletic is that we're engaged. We put in an offer for French striker Adrian Hunau from Rennes, but they remain firm on not letting him go since they're still kind of up in the table and battling for European qualification. But they could entertain selling him after the season ends May 23rd.
And that's just before the new season starts, isn't it?
Well,
MLS.
the new season starts April 17th.
Oh, okay, just after.
So that would be, yeah. So depends. And then also another one is, according to The Athletic, Minnesota has come to an agreement for Ozzy Alonso to come back for the 2021 season and have a role of a club ambassador after he retires. And he turned 35. He turned 35 in November, so he's kind of at the end. And if you, like I probably said in previous videos, if you talk about like the best defensive midfielders in MLS, in the conversation has to be Ozzy Alonso, because he was with Seattle for a decade, and he was hard nosed and kind of in your face,
Yeah.
and kind of had a temper sometimes, and I'm honestly kind of not surprised a little that he hasn't gotten a red card for Minnesota yet.
There's always time.
Yeah, and then there's homegrown deals, which are basically like they come through your academy, which Minnesota we kind of got rid, kind of with the start of pandemic, we got rid of our academy.
Okay.
And we've kind of gone into I think it's like the Iceland.
Yeah.
the how they do like youth academy in Iceland, where basically like they support local clubs, but then the players come and play every so often for like um, Minnesota,
Okay, that
and
makes sense.
um, so then also according to the Athletic, we're close to signing our second homegrown in addition to Fred Emmings, um, Patrick Weah, who that last name might be familiar. And unlike Ali Dia, he is the cousin of Tim Weah and the nephew of George Weah.
Okay.
So, and I think he's been highly regarded as far as his talent. So I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. So,
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, it comes from a rich family of football and heritage, definitely.
and then there was also our left back Chase Gasper was actually on the radar of Norway, one of Norway's clubs, Viking FK, who I think the Athletics said that they didn't put an offer in, but I saw from a Norwegian source that they did
Okay.
put an offer in, and Minnesota had uh, yet to agree to basically act on
Yeah.
the fee. And then I think that source ended up coming up that um, the the Viking didn't like the fee that Minnesota would have wanted.
Okay. Okay. So, would you say then that Minnesota have improved their squad coming into next season? Do you think we've brought in exactly what's needed? And if you would if you could see another position being improved, shall we say, where would you like it to be?
I mean, if you look at our roster right now, we only have one striker, and so that's basically our big thing. And we wanted to bring Maria
Yeah.
back on loan, but that unfortunately didn't work out because he went on loan back to Ecuador, where, funny enough, the story goes that when Minnesota went down to scout uh, of the striker at Quito in Ecuador, they went to the game, and it was the other team striker caught the eye
Oh,
and
okay.
like looking really good, and that striker turned out to be Luis Amaria. So
Oh,
we
okay.
basically went down to Ecuador to scout uh, a striker, and then when we went to that game, they were more impressed by the other team striker. And funny enough, the striker that they initially went down to go see is basically is the his replacement is Luis Amaria
Oh,
on loan.
okay. So it all works full circle, doesn't it? It's a small world.
Yeah, and then yeah, it's that definitely. And then yesterday we signed right back DJ Taylor,
Yeah.
who played for USL Championship side North Carolina FC. He graduated, or he came through the NYCFC Academy, and he's more of a defense first fullback. But late, like last season, he was definitely showing progress in his attacking side.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant. So I think it's fair to say, probably like Everton, to be fair, that Minnesota they may be lacking that strength and depth up top. Got a lot of depth defensively. You just said about TJ there, who's come in to add to the fullback. The fullback strength in depth there. So I suppose is anybody that Minnesota is sort of looking at in terms of going forward, as well as the the names that you've just mentioned? Do you think that realistically you'll bring in a striker before the end of the window?
I mean, yeah, I would definitely see one coming in, and if it, potentially could be, you know, uh, well, yeah, I could definitely see, and maybe potentially on a designated player deal
Yeah,
with, I think, well, one of the things that Minnesota was looking to do this offseason was to buy down the contract of Jan Gregus, who was a DP, so that he wouldn't be a DP, so we would only have two designated players left. And then I think Minnesota were looking to loan out Thomas Chacon, who we signed from Danibro in
yeah,
Uruguay,
yeah.
like almost 2 years ago. And I think he's 19 or 20, and we signed him to a young DP, and he hasn't really played that much. And I think Minnesota, they were actively trying to loan him out to in Europe somewhere,
Yeah,
so at least he could get game time and not with a an option to buy
yeah.
in case. But because from what I haven't really seen him play, but from the people that told me when they've actually seen him play, that he really has potential. And then
Brilliant.
our other designated player, Emmanuel Reynoso. I mean, even we signed him in September, that based on if he can continue his form that he did, even though he had great chemistry with Kevin Molino, who left. If he continues, I he's definitely. I would not be surprised if a team from Europe came in and picked him up,
Yeah,
because
he's a great player.
oh
He
yeah,
is.
he
He's
is.
a he's a absolutely great player. So there's been a couple of big signings outside of Minnesota as well in the MLS.
Hmm.
Any that sort of stick out for you? I know you mentioned Pato before. Any other ones
Yeah.
that you sort of looked at and you think that's a brilliant signing for them? They're going to be tough this season.
Um. Not really. I mean, we can basically talk about none that really, but the fact that the outgoing transfers in MLS this past January, you look at like Brendan Aronson to Red Bull Salzburg. You look at Mark McKenzie to Gang, Joe Scally to Borussia Mönchengladbach, um, Daryl DK to Barnsley on loan,
Yeah.
Jordan Morris and Paul Areola to Swansea on loan.
So
So yeah,
no, I was just about to say. So
so
we're seeing a lot of players leaving into Europe now from the MLS.
oh yeah, definitely, like we said last, and I think MLS is we're really starting. Or you look at Brian Reynolds, who went and signed for Roma.
Yeah.
Um, Another one that's being fairly rumored is new. I think 17 or 18. Caden Clark. He came up through Minnesota's academy back when we were when we were called the Minnesota Thunder. So he came up through that academy, and he went and signed with the New York Red Bulls reserve team.
Oh, okay.
And since he came up through the Minnesota Academy, I don't understand, but they're like Minnesota had to basically New York Red Bulls had to trade to get his rights to
Oh, okay.
sign him to an MLS deal. And there's rumor that he's going to go to RB Leipzig, I think next January or something.
That'd be massive. That'd be a
And
massive
so
signing.
he's he looks really good. I think he's scored a few goals and he had only played like a few, but I
Yeah.
think he's definitely one to watch in the MLS this season that can go to Europe.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And we mentioned Pato to Orlando. Is that one being
Yeah,
done?
yeah, that one's on a free, so he's not a designated player,
Okay.
and if Pato can live up, to kind of, I know in Europe he was like, oh, he was kind of hot and cold,
Yeah.
but he gets to link up with Nani, and I mean Nani is still Nani.
Yeah.
I mean he's still
Brilliant player.
amazing and brilliant, and he's yeah,
Brilliant.
that's definitely a good signing.
Brilliant. So it's going to be an interesting season anyway for Minnesota and for
Yep.
the overall MLS. Listen, I absolutely love doing these videos. They're brilliant, and,
Hmm.
and we're going to make this a little series as we spoke about in the previous episode. And
Hmm.
every now and then, myself and Gortz will sit down. We'll talk about Minnesota. I'm sure we'll talk again in a couple of weeks' time prior to the start of the new MLS season, and talk a bit about pre-season and Gort's expectations for Minnesota. I know he wants to talk a little bit about the upcoming Merseyside derby as well. A little bit of Premier League football
Yeah.
while we're in here. Everton
Yeah,
coming
I
in.
know. Yeah.
Everton coming into it off the back of a disappointing defeat to Manchester City. Not really a surprising defeat yesterday. More so a surprising and disappointing defeat against Fulham on Sunday. Are you excited for this one, mate? You looking forward to it, or are you like every other blue?
I'm excited, but I'm nervous because it's like, oh, we have a good squad, but at the same time, it's like our record at Anfield isn't
No,
good,
no, not at all. Not at
and
all.
so uh, I've kind of so at least at this time it's not on at six
Yeah.
at 6:30 for me. It's at 11:30, and I already have the day off of work, and so I'll be I'll kind of be sipping on a beer at 11:30 and kind of making sausage rolls, and then
Watching the
sitting
Toffees.
downstairs. Yeah, downstairs watching the base in the basement with my with near to my bathroom where I think my dad's gonna be watching with me, and every single time, even if we lose, with me having a urinal in my bathroom, I like to have one of these where I take a Sharpie and I write Liverpool sucks. So every single time I go to the bathroom in the urinal, I'm legit taking the piss on Liverpool.
And that's what we like.
Which, I mean, I love that, and that's kind of how I begin every day. I'm just like, oh, I hate these guys so much, and it was so funny because one of my really good friends from high school, he supports Liverpool and is a big fan of Steven Gerrard. And back over a year ago when we were in Liverpool, uh, I was gonna bring back like a scarf or something, and so I made my dad go in
Yeah.
to the
To
to
the
the
shop.
store, and I said, "There is no way I'm walking in there. I would. There's a ton of other stuff I'd rather do."
Yeah. I'm the same. I can't go in. I'm the same. So, what's your prediction then? Do you think we can do it this time? Do you think it'll be another tough fixture? What's sort of your expectations?
I'm thinking it'll be I think it'll be a battle of the goalkeepers. Hopefully Pickford does okay, and you know
Yeah.
and then everybody's saying, "Oh, Allison's the best key." Did you see his performance against see his performance last weekend
Yeah.
and
Yep.
just
It's a nerve-wracking one, isn't it? I mean, Liverpool are coming into it off the back of a few poor home defeats. Everton are coming into it off the back of a few poor home defeats, but also on a very good away record. So I hate Merseyside derbies. I hate predicting how they're gonna go. I hate talking about them. I just hate them. So the nerves are gonna fully be there on Saturday morning for you, I assume, mate.
yeah. They'll fully be there. So
Just gotta
yeah.
see what happens, I suppose. Well, anyway, we'll wrap it up there then. Look, a massive thank you, Gort, for coming on again and joining us. Like I said, we're going to sit down again in the next couple of weeks or so, talk about Minnesota a little bit more, maybe talk about the expectations for the new season, how Gort expects the new players to settle in, and obviously moving forward. Massive thank you, mate, as always, for joining us. Anything to say before we finish up?
I mean, I could bring out this, which I recently just got
That's quality, that.
framed. Let me just tell you, it is 1000% easier to get something signed in MLS than it is in Europe.
Yeah.
Because me and my friend stayed till about 11 p.m. and got, I think I have a list here. The purple pink is Kevin Molino, Brett Kallman, Hassani Dotson, Ike Opara, Dane St. Clair. Remember him. Vito Manone for you Premier League. He played a season. Ethan Finley, Miguel Ibarra, Michael Boxall, Chase Gasper, Jan Gregus, Ozzy Alonso, Darwin Quintero, Wilfred Moambe Terrat, Mason Toy. I think I'm missing one more, and so that's going up soon. So
brilliant.
Just figured, yeah.
You'll have to get a signed Everton one soon as well.
I mean, I already got I got one Jordan Pickford signed that my friend sent me, and then when I was over there, I decided to get Seamus Coleman one. Brilliant. So I'll have to get one of those and put those up there. So
definitely happy days. Well, anyway, a massive thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this one, leave it a like. If you enjoyed this type of content, I love making this. It's much different to what we usually do, and it's a nice little break from talking about Everton constantly. So if you enjoy this content, please do hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe as well. You can check out Gort's social media in the description below. Go and give him a follow. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below as well. Massive thank you for watching. Big thanks to Gort for coming on. Up the Minnesota FC, up the Toffees, and we'll see you soon.